nay, this, it doesn't want to come up on SD 25.
Oh, just click out of this meet attendance authorized. There's that little X up there. Oh, oopsie, sorry.
That one?
No, not the plus, the X. There you go.
Loaded questions.
Okay, then you
Okay.
can get there.
Okay.
You're doing the same thing, or did you get it?
Yeah, I was doing it. Oh, there. I hate getting these addendum items.
We've got addendum now?
Yeah.
Because I checked just about, less than an hour ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have time here to process it.
Can we go? Okay. I call this meeting to order for the purpose of a special meeting to discuss the Pocatello Chubbuck School District Number 25 Roadmap Instructional Models and the Idaho State Stage 2 Athletic Plan. We will begin with an administrative presentation and recommendations regarding the PCSD 25 Roadmap Instructional Models presented by Dr. Howell, Ms. Pettit, Ms. Fisher, Ms. Miner, and Ms. Wilkes. Who would like to go
Okay,
first?
I'll start, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Thank you very much. So for you tonight, we do have some addenda items, and we will discuss those with you as we go through the presentation. First up, though, the one that we will not cover with you is the surrounding school district instructional models. We have pulled together the information from other districts up the I-15 corridor over toward Twin Falls and shared that information with you as far as what other districts are doing. Just one update for you is that Twin Falls started back 4 days a week yesterday. So they have changed their secondary model from hybrid to face-to-face 4 days a week. Other than that, I think it's pretty consistent.
What we don't know, though, is, how many times have they had to change what they're doing because of outbreaks?
Yes, we do not have that information for you. Correct, Ms. Gebhardt. So how we will start tonight is, again, we'll address the addendum, those items, and we will start with Mrs. Fisher talking to you a little bit about the memo from Southeast Idaho Public Health Department. And then Mrs. Miner will talk to you about current COVID cases and the staffing that we have. Mrs. Pettit will talk to you about options for consideration tonight, as will I help and assist. And then Ms. Wilkes will talk to you about the Stage 2 activity direction from the governor's office that we received last week. And there's an assurance form that the board has to have signed by the board chair that we would need to submit to the state board saying that we're on board with the new direction and the guidelines. And so if we could, we'll start with Mrs. Fisher, and then we'll just go in that order that I presented.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and trustees. So tonight, I'm going to share with you the statement that was prepared by the staff of Southeastern Idaho Public Health. As you know, they've been guiding us all along this with recommendations from a public health standpoint from their view in the community. School District 25 has been proactive in their precautions they have chosen to put into place to limit the spread of COVID-19. These actions have included requiring face coverings and implementing a modified traditional cohort approach in elementary schools and a hybrid approach in middle schools and high schools, which has allowed for physical distancing. These actions taken to date by School District 25 have limited classroom spread to a minimum. The most significant cluster linked to a classroom spread involved 9 people in a choir class. The vast majority of cases connected to learners, educators, and staff in the ST25 seem to have occurred outside the classroom setting. Vaccine availability is one consideration when making decisions about how to proceed through the remaining school year. We anticipate that educators and staff will begin to receive COVID-19 vaccinations in February. The vaccine requires 2 doses spaced either 21 or 28 days apart, depending on the manufacturer, for maximum protection. Accordingly, it will likely be mid to late April or March for all educators and staff who wish to be vaccinated to complete the 2-dose series. Please understand that this timeline may vary based upon the amount of vaccine received in our 8-county region. We recognize this is a challenging situation with no clear answers and no one correct path. Southeast Idaho Public Health staff are supportive of each of the options School District 25 is considering for moving forward. And with that, if you don't have any questions.
No?
Okay, we
No.
also,
I do have one question. Do you know how they came up with their, the Southeast, this is a statewide agenda they came up with for vaccinations? Is that right? Am I?
right, I believe that there was a committee that the governor put together.
Advisory council to the governor. Yes.
But has it been totally approved yet, or is it waiting?
That's my understanding, and that's why all of this was published and has been
That it
presented.
has been approved, because last I heard it had to go to the legislature or something there. I don't know. So you don't,
I couldn't say for sure, Mrs. Grainer.
you know, because
We'll do a little quick research and then we'll see if we can have an answer for
I
you
just-
by the time the next presenter
was
is
just
finished.
disappointed where they put teachers. I thought they should have ranked teachers higher than what they were ranked, and some of their rankings I thought were not consistent with what other states are doing at all. And so I really had some concerns with their vaccination schedules, and really felt like the PEA and ISBA and Idaho School Board Association, everybody should be advocating for, to put teachers in that first category.
And I can reach out via text to Miss Maggie Mann and ask her that question and see if I can get an answer
Right,
before
yeah.
we conclude tonight.
Yeah, you know, because I had some real questions about the way they did it compared to what I've seen in other states. So, anyway, that's
Right.
my question, and I think that they should have. I was just disappointed in their rankings, you know, the way they did it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
Ms.
the
Fish-
statement is included in the addendum for your review.
Mrs. Fisher will see if she can get us a crystal clear answer before
Right.
we finish.
And we did receive a fair share of public comment today, and that has also been included in your addendum tonight. So, thank you.
Good evening, Board Chair, trustees. Hope all of you had a nice holiday. I just wanted to touch base with you on a few things. Yesterday, we had a phone conference, and I'm hopeful, Mrs. Craner, that I can give you a little bit of information on that, and there's some information in your packet as well, as far as where teachers are, as far as that essential staff and where they are, okay?
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, you did, okay. So yesterday, in a phone conversation with the Southeast Idaho Health Department, she reported their data as far as how they have kept track of school district employees, school district staff, and what their numbers look like, and kind of in comparison to ours. So from August 24th to December 30th, they had, as far as contact tracing, they have 292 students that were in our district, 47 teachers, and 43 other staff. She did make note in the conversation, however, that there's 221 cases of people under the age of 18 in Bannock County for which data is not available due to the lack of responsiveness, like when they've called with contact tracing, we're unable to get a hold of them, or people unwilling to say if their child is in a public school setting, and remember, this is for all of Bannock County, those numbers, okay? As far as
Are
the,
these current active ones? Or
No.
These are just,
right, these are just since, again, these are from August 24th to December 30th, okay? And so, as you know, we've been tracking and reporting our weekly case numbers since early October. Overall, those numbers have stayed in a consistent range. I wanted to give you some updates on our current numbers as of today. And again, you know, with the Christmas holiday and those kinds of things, I wasn't sure what those would look like. So right now, currently, we have 3 in the elementary, 2 in the middle school, 1 in the high school, and 4 staff members. So they've went down quite a bit. But again, remember that these numbers are based on documentation that we receive by the district from the health department or medical verification that we receive from the schools, which means that the parents have provided the school with documentation. And so those are our current numbers this week. Again, as stated in the health department recommendation, we anticipate educators and staff will begin receiving the COVID-19 vaccination in February. And then in your board packet, it does talk about how they are in that second category, and they're a 2.2, which means that they're just one below, and I think there's 7 subcategories in that essential workers column, and educators fall under that 2.2.
They have quite a few in the first column, though.
Right, right. And then the pre-K-12, when they fall in that essential workers category, Maggie also, from the health department, also talked to us about, you know, that they're hopeful, and just keep in mind that, you know, if the vaccination comes in February, that then there is that 21-day and that 28-day for the second dose. Also, I wanted to give you just a quick update. When I was here last, I spoke with you about transportation, and we talked about busing. And so since we've had that incentive, we have 5 people in training based on the incentive, and we continue to advertise and hope for more candidates. However, with any of the options that are presented tonight, Mr. Reed has spoken to transportation and to food service, and that we have adequate personnel to be able to make sure that our students are able to be at school and have the meals with the staff that we have. Okay? Questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're good. Thanks. Hello. Okay, couple of options that we're going to be presenting to you tonight to look at. Option 1 would be to remain in traditional, modified traditional in the elementary for the remainder of the school year, and then transition to hybrid, or from hybrid to traditional, modified traditional, effective March 1st. That is the beginning of the 3rd try, and so the last day of hybrid would be February 25th. The second option would be to remain in modified traditional in elementary for the remainder of the school year, and then transition to hybrid, or from hybrid to modified traditional, effective January 19th. Right now, our hybrid is going through January 15th, and then the 18th is a holiday. So, and then option 3 was to remain in modified traditional in elementary, and for the remainder of the year, transitioned from hybrid to modified traditional for the middle school effective January 19th, and then transition the high school from hybrid to traditional on March 1st. And at the time when we were discussing that, we talked about the school sizes, and the middle schools are a little smaller, but then we looked at it a little closer, and it was like, well, but the buildings are smaller and the lunchrooms are smaller. So at this time, we are not recommending that to look at option 3 at all. So if you'll take it down to 1 and 2.
Can you go through those again? 1, 2,
Sure.
and 3.
So 1 is transition to transition. So the elementary stays the same. 1 would be transition to modified tradition for 3rd try, so beginning March 1st.
That's option 1.
That's option 1. Option 2 would be doing transition to traditional on the 19th of January.
Okay.
And that's like 4 days past midterm. So,
But
Can you
everything-
clarify, for the secondary,
Mhm.
modified
Traditional.
sure, modified traditional for secondary would be wearing masks, making sure we're doing our cleaning, one-way hallways when we can. The things that we've been doing in hybrid other than hybrid, and there really isn't a whole lot more that we can do. for secondary due to changes in class schedules and lunch rooms and lunch times and constraints we have, so.
And masks are mandatory.
Right now, they're mandatory, yep.
And so if students don't want to wear a mask, or if they're caught without a
There's-
mask on, or a teacher, because I've heard about teachers taking masks off too.
Then they need to let us know about that, but the administration should be taking care of that. We do have several kids that have medical excuses
Right,
for not wearing masks, but other than that, everybody else is to have a mask on at all times.
okay. So what's the protocol if that happens? If they don't have one on?
They're reminded to put one on, they're handed one. If they're arguing about it, it's the same as, shoot, I lost my word. They're sent for discipline, so there's,
Okay,
Yeah, and then, of course, we would counsel with the students,
Mhm.
and if the opportunity is there and it's a break, a natural break, then they could sign up for online classes. As far as staffing, that would just go through probably an oral written,
Mhm.
kind of a progressive discipline.
because you'll still be offering online.
we can offer online, but the problem is that if you decide to go to traditional schooling on the 19th of January, they can't start online until March 1st because we're in the middle of a trimester. And the work that they've done up to this point won't transition onto online, and they don't have enough time to finish the number of online classes they need to finish before the end of the trimester. So,
It doesn't seem like you're talking, though, at all about continuing what we're doing.
that would be hybrid, to continue the hybrid through March 1st. So that'd be
That's
option
number
one.
Is what we're presenting tonight are just a couple options that would take us essentially through the end of the year. Certainly, the board could have a discussion about, and if you look at the recommendations, again, we're just sharing some options with
Mhm.
you to consider, but certainly what's been in place from the beginning is that the board can maintain hybrid and then choose to reconvene at a later date and look at this again and then make decisions moving forward at that time, Mrs. Gephardt. So that is always on the table, as
Mhm.
well as whatever the board would like to entertain and discuss.
Well, among the things that I saw in our email was the note from Mike Engel, who's still talking about the number of cases in the county that are still pretty high.
Mhm.
Wearing masks makes a difference, but there's still a lot of cases.
Mhm.
And
But,
It-
I feel really strongly about this tonight, because we've basically kept kids out of personalized instruction other than 2 days a week in our secondary levels for half a year. And if we wait till March, then we have a week of spring break in March, and that basically gives them 2 months, and the last part of the last of May, the last week or so of May, right before graduation, is typically not a really great learning period of time, so I just feel we are in the business of educating kids. And we have tried everything we can do to keep them safe and to keep our teachers safe. And we followed everything that, what the health department has asked us to do to keep with that. And, and this illness is just so unpredictable, and in the paper today, there was a quote about how, from the CDC, about, Janie, can you find that really fast, or I know that?
it's in this
Yeah.
area, I don't know which quote you're
And
on.
I heard this in, when I was in another state around Thanksgiving time, and it said, the Center for Disease Control and our governor has reiterated a recent communication that our schools are safe and not identified as super spreader environments. And I kind of heard the same kind of thing in the end of the end of November, you know, and I think we have tried our best to keep students and teachers safe and to negotiate this whole process, but at some point, we have got to get them back in school. I just feel, I've seen kids, smart, bright kids who are not doing well in this online period. They just, and part of that mostly, from what I see, is they don't get assignments turned in. You know, and I don't know how you want to break that down, or who you want to blame for that, or this or that, because I know our teachers, I have seen our teachers work above and beyond. You know, they have had tutoring classes after school. They have done everything they can to try and help these kids with it. But I firmly believe that it's time that we give this time, that we put them back in school in January. You know, send them back full-time to school in January, or even do a 4-day hybrid or whatever, you know. But I look at the schools around us who have been doing 4 days for a long time. Most of them are smaller, but there are some larger ones, districts that are doing that, some that are doing 5. And I just feel that, you know, and I've heard the argument, oh, just do it with junior high kids and not high school, but these high school kids, really, I feel passionately that we need to get them back into school. And so, my suggestion would be to go with putting them back on the 19th, and then we can reevaluate 1st of March if you want, and if that doesn't work, I mean, we've tried about everything we can think of. And so if then come the 1st of March, we see it more drastic, you know, or that it's more, then we can reevaluate then. But I think it's important that we really try to see how it works with getting them in school. That's my,
Well, I read a whole lot of letters today, most of whom, I mean, there were a few who said, just go back to school. But there were quite a number who said, maintain what you're doing because it works. And part of what I think needs to stand behind that, we have said we're gonna follow the guidelines, and the Southeast Idaho Public Health has said what you're doing is working. But the vaccines are not gonna be there for us, and it's probably not effective until the end of March.
but
But-
where's it?
So you just throw everybody back in and say, have at it.
Well,
I
no.
don't think so.
Well, look at the other schools, though. Are the numbers so significantly
We
different
don't know.
with kids that have been in school full-time?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Well, surely they have data of how
Yeah.
many they have.
They
sick.
know.
They don't have any data of how many,
So we did not request the data, but in the Idaho News, there was a report that broke down some of the cases for certain districts. I think, for example, Bonneville was around 78, but, you know, the number of students that they had at any one time. And so that's the only one that I remember off of the top of my head.
well, and you know, I've wrestled with this for a long time, because I know we said we were gonna stay with what Southeast Health Department and that said, but nobody could predict what this pandemic would bring, or how long it would last, or everything that happened. And I just don't believe I think kids' mental health and their education, we really need to evaluate and at least try putting them back in from June till the end of, what is it, a half try? Is it a half try?
Ye-
From
So January.
January 19th, I said June, from January 19th till March 1st, and see what happens. You know, I mean, because I don't see things better or worse than any other district, and they've had their kids in school. And I just think our kids are at a disadvantage because we haven't let them go back in our secondary.
But there were a lot of letters from kids in our email stream today. I really appreciate the fact that those kids, I mean, I said to my husband, I don't know that I ever thought to write to the school board when I was a student, but they wrote very cogent letters. And most of them, the students are all saying, leave it the way it is. We've gotten used to the schedule, we're doing okay. And to me,
Well, see,
I
I'm
would like
hearing opposite. I'm hearing opposite.
but they didn't bother to let us know the opposite. But the kids who did let us know said, please leave it the way it is.
What's the rate of success that these kids that are in school, what rate of success at their work are they having?
It's, the overall GPA is a little lower from the beginning of the year on, but it has climbed since the end of first try till now. So they're getting used to hybrid. It's just, some are being very, very successful at it, some aren't. It's the same as it's regular in school. Some of them are really, really successful in school and some aren't. But hybrid is
Is it
getting,
comparable?
I would say hybrid's harder on everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but they're getting used to it.
I've just heard from so many sources that they're, of kids who are getting C's and D's and F's, and so they're all at one, and so teachers are staying over and helping them to get everything turned in and do this and do that. I just, what will it really hurt to send them back on January 19th? And then look at it the 1st of March, the new try, and see how they're doing, if they're not doing better.
Okay,
How many of our teachers will not be there after that?
I don't know. I will tell you that one of the concerns that I've heard from several high school people is that it takes the kids about 2.5 weeks to get into a rhythm to do stuff. And all of their classes they're taking are for credit. And so they've gotten used to hybrid, and if we put them in January, it'll take them 2 weeks or so to get used to that. And then there's 3 weeks left till the end of the try. And their grades and scholarships and everything are based on those grades.
But the kids who aren't getting it are still going to be failing. I mean, and there's a lot who still aren't getting it. You know, I just think that we owe it to these kids, and my hope is that we can leave them in the whole rest of the year, you know, because I don't think we're gonna see numbers much different. You know, I believe what the CD said, it's not going to be that big of a factor. My big concern was teachers, you know, and the safety and well-being of teachers, but they're getting exposed to them every day anyway.
They can social distance with half the kids in the building. We will not be able to social distance in secondary with all the kids in the building.
But elementary teachers have a full classroom, you know,
But they have
One
only the
class.
same kids all the time.
right? And-
That's a whole different thing than having to change classes and move in the hall and all the rest that happens in secondary.
But our job really is to get kids in there and to educate kids, and I.
You know
And
what, we
And
have
be
done,
safe.
they need to be safe.
We've been trying to be safe.
We are. We're still in the pandemic and we're not out of it yet.
I'm well aware of that. You know, I mean, I don't know, I just think we have a responsibility to these kids too, and
I don't think kids learn very well if they're sick, though. And I'm just really worried about, it's still out there. And in fact,
Sorry, Paul.
in a lot of places, the numbers are higher than they have been in a long time. And so, and we've just come through the holiday, who knows what's gonna happen? So I really think we have to err on the side of being safe.
well, I know quite a few that have had this in you know, K through 12. And most of their symptoms have been mild, you know, or some of them would never have even known they had it. But that's true. That's true.
They take it home to everybody else in the family? Did you check on that?
Yeah, and in a family of 6, 3 got it, 3 didn't, and they all got it at different times. So they were quarantined for like 3 or 4 weeks because they didn't get it all at the same time. And 3 of them never got it, you know. I mean, it's just weird stuff. I know people who have died from it, which is very sad. And I have wrestled with keeping people safe, and yet I've wrestled with doing the job that we need to be doing and giving these kids a fair education. We have to prepare them for what's ahead, especially in high school. And I can't say that, I don't feel that we're doing that adequately enough the way we're doing it. For some, it's great, but there's a vast majority, I don't know if it's a majority, who knows? But there's a vast number that it isn't working. So
Mr. Chairman, if there are no more questions for Mrs. Pettit right now, I know that you have a couple of patrons that have asked to speak.
Okay.
And then we also, and you can have further discussion certainly, but when you decide
Okay.
what you want to do, if
Sure.
maybe
Makes sense.
more discussion could follow the final presenter, and then if you want to call for comments and then discussion, and I don't mean to overstep
No.
my place, but,
We'll bring up Tanya next.
yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and go with Ms. Brooks, if we could. And then we'll have Ms. Fisher, if that'd be all right, Mr. Chairman, to come
Mhm.
up and give us that update.
Good evening, Board Chair and trustees and Dr. Howell. Right before we left for the Christmas break, the Idaho School Board of Education and IHSAA and superintendents presented a proposal to the governor. Right now, back in November, they had a stage 2 where no spectators were allowed. They presented a proposal for them detailed to allow parents, and the governor on December 30th changed a couple things. He changed the 6-foot social distance to 12-foot social distance and so forth. But I think you have that stage 2 order in your documents. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Nick? And so I was wondering if you had any questions. We would like to go ahead and move forward with the stage 2 documentation from the governor, that detailed plan, and we'd like to do it exactly the way it's written. So there's no changes for us. And because in here it states if your district has a mandate of masks, then that would be required, because there are some districts that don't mandate masks, and so when they sit down, they can take off their masks. Our district does, so we mandate masks the entirety of the event. Do we have any questions about the order or what they've listed on there? I know
Well,
there's a,
I happened to be at our first game
yes.
on Saturday, and it worked quite well. I was glad I was there. Those gyms are huge, and you put 10 couples, and they spaced by themselves. They were way outside. They wore masks. They were very appreciative of being there, very
Mhm.
thankful.
Mhm.
Came up to me and said that, and was glad I was there. So this is very good. What IHSA, who did this?
All the groups,
Yeah.
IASA,
Okay, they all
ISBA.
did it, and the
Yeah,
governor
all
signed
just
off
the
on it.
governor.
And we're really thankful that they did do this, because we needed, unity,
Yeah.
and that everybody was, and now there's
With their-
actually consequences and so forth, so
Right.
that we can hold strong. And all my athletic directors had no questions, no quorums at all of how to follow everything on here,
No,
which we were pretty much doing.
it worked well.
Mhm. Correct.
Anyway, it's on.
And our big thing too is keeping those communities separate, so one side of the gym will be visitors, one side will be
Mhm.
home, and so we have a really good plan in place.
It worked.
And it's very detailed, so there's not a whole lot of question, to go outside of, anything else that's on here. And if we do, we call IHSA, and they've answered all our questions, so it's worked really well. This is what we've been looking for a while, so I'm
Yeah.
really happy to have it.
Good.
Any questions about it? And all our teams are doing great, and nobody's quarantined at the time, so. Right, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like that update from
Yeah,
Mrs. Fisher regarding the vaccinations.
yes, please. Take a second.
Okay, Mrs. Mann is always a wealth of information, so I'm going to try to summarize my quick conversation with her to the best of my ability. I typed up some notes. She had a lot to say. So the timeline for the vaccine delivery was established by the COVID-19 Advisory Committee, which was set by the governor, and they report directly to the governor. That committee is made up of physicians and also infectious disease as experts from across the state. They have been following the guidelines established by the federal government, and it is Ms. Mann's understanding that cities and health districts are really expected to follow that progression that has been set by that committee. She also reiterated that the chart in your packet is a direct reflection of those federal guidelines. So while there may be states that have veered away from those guidelines, it really isn't necessarily what the federal government wants. She also reiterated that the biggest obstacle currently facing us is supply. So we just have not gotten the amount of vaccines that we need to do this in a really quick way. And she did say that once we have that vaccination, that we will be able to roll it out really quickly for educators, whether we do a mass vaccination clinic, and we can do hundreds of vaccinations for our educators that want the vaccine in one day. She also wanted to specify that although we are tier 2, we are second under first responders and law enforcement, and so we really are pretty high up the list. And she said, believe me, there are many, many critical essential workers that feel like they should be further up the list. And so she did kind of educate me on how they made that determination, and some of the factors that went into that decision were the highest risk of exposure, which would obviously be health professionals and those first responders, and then the greater likelihood of severe outcomes. She did also reiterate to me that as long as we continue doing what we've set with the face coverings and physical distancing as much as possible, that they do recommend, or they do support any option that you choose tonight. So it's a hard decision that you have to make.
So she said they would support either option.
They said they will support. They read through the 3 options that we had in the board packet, and they came to the conclusion that they would support based on what we've already been doing and our commitment to continuing with those mitigation strategies, that they would support whatever decision you come to tonight.
Thank you for doing that for me.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for,
And I do, somebody called in to ask what time the meeting started, and they were told 5:30, and so she came, and so I feel like, because she was told the wrong time, if you'll accept this
sure.
one more request.
Mhm. Okay, time for public opinion, or, opinion. Christina Perkis, you read through all that, we're looking for decorum.
Lenahan, did I write Lenahan?
Okay,
I hope I did. Hi, thank you for this opportunity. My name's Chris Lenahan. I'm a teacher at Franklin Middle School. And I have concerns about the 3 options of instructional model that you've been presented tonight. But I'd like to begin with sharing some sobering facts at the start of the school year. These are all from the CDC. There were about 29,000 COVID cases and 300 deaths in the state of Idaho. As of today, those numbers have increased to 143,000 cases and 1,200 deaths. Nowhere in these statistics is there any cause for celebration, much less a reason to loosen restrictions. Yet that is exactly what you would be doing if you allowed students district-wide to return to 5-day instruction. Twice as many students means double the exposure to this deadly virus for students and staff alike. There's a vaccine proven to be over 90% effective, but vaccinations take months to ensure enough have been done to lower the risk. I participated in the district-wide flu shot program, even though the lethality rate is around 5%. I have no opportunity at this time to be vaccinated against COVID-19, and the chances of dying from it are over 18%. This scares me to death. I am doing everything in my power not to contract the virus. Please realize the grave consequences of your decision tonight. The students and staff of SD 25 are counting on you to stay the course of decision-making based on scientific data. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Holly Junker? Holly Junker?
There you go.
Hmm?
Renee?
Hi.
Yep.
I'll wait till it dries. I didn't, oh, there you go, that works fine.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Can you have 5 minutes?
Good evening. I didn't come here to talk about masks, but I just want to say for 1 second, my children are the medically exempt children, and I am medically exempt. You wouldn't ask someone in a wheelchair why they're in a wheelchair. So please keep that in mind. And I do appreciate what the districts have been doing, all the classes. They've been doing a wonderful job. But what I came here to challenge you with is I don't believe it matters what I say here tonight. I believe your minds are already made up. But I came here, sorry, I'm just nervous, because our children deserve us here fighting for them. So I sit here and I stand here and I challenge each one of the 6 of you, including you, to sign up for a foreign language class. And I'd like you to try it for a trimester. And I'd like you to teach yourself. And I'd like to talk about it afterwards, and let's see how you did. Because that's what my daughter had to do. And after 2 weeks, when we thought you were going to change your minds, you didn't, and she couldn't get out of the class. And she struggled. And I would just like to know how you would do. It's a really good question, isn't it? She did manage to pull that F the very last second to a C. Thank you, Jesus. But I want to challenge you on that. Any questions? I hope you do the right thing tonight. Our kids need to go back to school. Thank you for all that you had to say. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. And we have, last one is Mary Ann LaGroy.
Board members, district staff, those viewing at home, thank you for allowing me to speak. On behalf of the Pocatello Education Association, I would like to ask the board to vote to remain under the current instructional schedules until all staff of the school district receive the vaccine. In a survey conducted by the PEA, 489 certified staff members responded. 46.38% want to continue modified traditional in elementary, and 59.4% voted to continue hybrid in secondary. We understand and we join in the desire to have our students back full-time. That has never been in question. However, we believe we must err on the side of caution to protect the lives of our students, staff, and community members. The health department and Maggie Mann have our utmost respect, no question. However, we believe that the COVID numbers in our schools and community to be higher than reported. We know, and I have personally heard, that students will not get tested so that they can continue their athletics. Sorry. Additionally, we do not have 100% mask compliance among our students, especially in high school, and those are not students who are medically exempt. And we do not have that in our community. Idaho Falls has been under a mandatory mask mandate for months, while Pocatello has been under the mandate for a few weeks, and Chubbuck has no mandate at all. I have one member who had COVID over Thanksgiving. She brought it home from school and she gave it to her entire family. Both she and her husband were hospitalized. Her husband had to receive a blood transplant with the COVID antibodies, or blood transfusion, not a transplant, excuse me. Neither of them had pre-existing conditions. She currently has heart damage and is potentially facing having a pacemaker implanted. She's now on additional medication as her kidneys, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas are inflamed and not working properly, and she is in her 30s. We are coming back from a 2-week break where people traveled and visited families. We should wait until the exposure time is up before we even begin to think about changing our instructional schedules. We understand the pressure that is felt to get the students back into schools 5 days a week. We know the district is concerned with the levy coming up, and we know the recall plays a heavy weight on everyone's mind. However, we respectfully ask that you continue to use the strategies that offer the protection short of remote learning. Keep us in modified traditional hybrid until the beginning of the third try and our staff has been vaccinated. On a side note, there is no way we can, as Ms. Pettit stated, there's no way we can physically distance in middle school and high school. I have members who would have over 30 students, 35 students in a classroom. There's no physical distancing for that. I know elementary school kids, there might be 30, 32 in a class, but they stay in that class all day. And on another side note, excuse me, it's worrisome to me, or maybe I feel like it's a little bit hypocritical, sorry. It's the second day back from the break. It's only like the third time I've worn shoes in 2 weeks, so my brain isn't quite there. It seems hypocritical to me that this board is concerned with what other districts are doing, but when we bring up what other districts do in negotiations, it doesn't seem to matter because we are not them and we are our own individual district. So I believe, and we believe as the PEA, that what we have done have kept our numbers relatively low in the school and have saved lives. And we ask that you continue on that until the third trimester begins and we can get our staff vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, that's all. Further comment? on what we were discussing beforehand? Options, the options?
Yeah.
Jim, you have something?
Well, for one thing, this to me isn't motivated by my feelings about this isn't motivated by the election.
Mrs. Greiner, could I have you speak into the microphone? Sorry. I
Isn't
know you-
motivated by the election or the recall or the levy. You know, it's motivated by the kids and my concern for kids, and that's all it's motivated by. And I just, you know, I guess what I'm concerned about is I don't have data that shows me that us keeping them home is making them any better than any other district that's sending them to school. That it's making a difference, you know, and so, you know, they can say, well, we've done that and we've helped keep our kids safe. Well, show me the data where our kids are way more safe than the other districts who are sending their kids to school. You know, that's where I'm concerned, you know, and so I thought, we've tried everything, and, you know, and I know she said, well, wait till our teachers get vaccinated. Well, if they all get vaccinated in February, they're still not gonna be totally vaccinated because they have to wait 21 days for the
Mhm.
second dose. So we're talking till the end of March, or, you know, and school's gonna be over and gone. Are we gonna let the whole year go by before we ever put them back in school? And so I wanna see some data that says, we've kept our kids safer because they're home on hybrid. You know, and I don't see that. You know, and I don't know, and so I'm saying, so let's try sending them back and see if our data's worse. You know, is it making a difference or what, you know, but, I mean, and it is, it's a hard decision to make, you know, because I think teachers feel safer, and social distancing is a problem, you know, and yet Maggie Mann said, as long as we try to keep them social distance as much as we can and require them to wear masks, they felt either model would work. So I don't know. I just need to hear from the rest of you. I
Doug,
guess.
tell me about Apex. Somebody's on Apex right now.
So-
If someone's on Apex right now and we do this 19th, does that affect them at all?
So I'm going to ask Mrs. Pettit to come up. She's more familiar with the program. I think they could continue. It would be those who would choose, who would rather not come back to school full-time. We would not have an option for them to start until the end of the trimester. Is that
That is
correct,
correct.
Mrs. Pettit?
Yep,
So Apex kids would have to
they'd have to finish the trimester.
finish as normal,
Mhm.
not at school.
Yep,
Okay?
and the kids that are at school couldn't start Apex until third try.
Okay, all right. Jim, you have something to say?
Oh, I don't know, I understand the importance of keeping the kids safe.
Mhm.
I really understand it. I also understand the importance of having the kids in school. I mean, we all know that that's a better place for them to learn.
Well, that's a given.
It is, and, I think the things that I'm hearing from people is about 50-50 of going full-time or staying where we're at. So it's kind of I don't know, kind of up in the air there. And I really love to see the kids back in school, and I know it's easier on the teachers if they're in school. Of course, if if the numbers spike and they all start getting sick, then we'll be in trouble for not having substitute teachers, and that'll give us a problem, so.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the same dilemma, you know, I mean, and nobody can agree.
Let all speak.
Yeah, I've heard from teachers too that are really concerned about going back. And you know, having kinfolk that are teaching and are, it could be compromised. You know, it's a real problem for me. You know, and I understand the kids need to be back, and it would be, and I'm concerned that they're not doing well. Damn, I don't know where we go if we just have to stay there where we're at. And if we have a greater number of teachers who say, I can't do it, and won't teach, then we're really up the creek. So you know, those are the kinds of things that are really concerning me about what we do and where we go. I think that at this point, we have to keep the teachers working. If we can't keep them working, then we're screwed. And we just have to do that. And you know, I don't know what the heck we're gonna do with the kids. They're gonna have to, I don't know.
Well, I think,
I really, you know, I can really understand where you're coming from, Jackie, and I don't, but I just don't know. And you know, I'm really concerned about, I just feel that the teachers should have got, you know, be getting those shots earlier. Just because this is the future of, you know, they're dealing with the future of the community, for crying out loud, and that, you know, and to have them have to wait until the end of February. And I think, you know, the stuff I've heard is that first shot is gonna help you. That, you know, the second, you know, there's good help from the first shot that you get, and you're safer,
But it takes time. You know, you get a shot, but you don't have immediate immunity
yeah,
from
right.
that.
I know that, yeah, I know that.
But that's the problem too, is then you have to wait 3 more weeks
Mhm.
before you get the second dosage.
Yeah,
Then-
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
And you know, I don't know either. I mean, I do worry about teachers, but you know, we didn't really ask our elementary teachers when we did this. We just sent them all back. We just sent them all back full-time
Mhm.
and expected them to do it. And we
Yeah.
said it's because we can control your social distancing better, which is true. But we didn't really give them much of a choice, you know, and we just expected them to do that. And a lot of them were a little offended. You know, you put us in there, but you don't want to put any of your secondary people in a situation where.
There are reasons for that.
Yeah.
There are good reasons for that.
There were reasons. And that's probably my elementary teacher thing
Mhm.
through, you know, but I can see why they felt that way, you know, and, I just don't know. I just, you know, this is something everybody debates. Nobody has the correct answers for it. And yet, kids are suffering, families are suffering. I think it's affecting kids and families in some pretty significant ways. So,
But you know what? Even people that aren't in school programs are I mean, just look around, and the world is not the same as it was.
right,
So we can't just go assuming that it's just gonna be okay if we do this.
right. But we haven't tried it. We haven't tried sending them back and seeing what our numbers would be, what our numbers would look like.
I'd much rather err on the side of safety.
Would-
I would. That's just an if. That's just an iffy thing.
But safety how, though?
Safety,
What about
continue what we're doing.
mental health things with the kids?
Well, maybe we can ask the proper authorities about mental health and recruit some counselors, psychologists, like, you know, and talk to the people after work, after school, on weekends, whatever it is. I mean, maybe there's an option there. But this is not happening to everybody, and we've all made sacrifices. Everything I love, I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
So we're all being affected, and we all got to step up and pull up our pants and say, we're gonna get through this thing together. So, I'm gonna err on the
Well-
side of,
And if like, I don't know whether other people got the letter from Lisa Beacom this morning. Her concern, she's one of our, well, I don't know whether she's a school resource person or, but she's doing some stuff with kids with mental health issues.
yes,
And her concern is we need to stay the course, that making radical changes is not helpful to those kids. And that's one of the questions I have is, you know, yes, it's been hard to get used to hybrid, but once in it, there are quite a number of kids who say they're doing okay. But our most vulnerable populations have a hard time trying to make another change. So, yes, I can hear what you're saying, Jackie, that it's important to get kids in school, but I think we just don't know, and so doing what we do know is working is maybe the best course.
Well, see, and I don't know that it's working, you know, I mean, I know that our numbers are good in school, but I don't know if that's because of the program we're in or because of what the CDC said, that the secondary levels, it's not that, you know, so I guess I'm just, I don't have all the answers, I just wanted, you know, and I know there are people who really want to stay in that, you know, and gee, we made everybody else mad, you know. Either way we go, you know, but I don't know, I guess I just, I know people that are working in districts where they go to school 4 days a week, and they're doing okay. Their kids are doing okay, and they're doing okay, and I don't see their COVID numbers or anything else that's going on are any more drastic or any more significant than ours are.
that leads us to say that if we don't know, then we should stay on the side of safe,
Stay the course.
stay the course.
Do you need a,
Do you want to speak
can we
some more?
make an actual,
I was just gonna say that I know that on the schedule or on the, you know, those kids that do well in school and are motivated, they're still motivated and maybe they're not doing as well as they would be otherwise, but those ones that are not particularly motivated in school aren't motivated, and I know that they're struggling, and there's a lot of them that their grades are probably really hurting, and I wonder how many kids will we miss out of graduation this year because of that.
Not because we're not trying.
one of the questions that I would have in this is, what are we hearing from New Horizons about how students are doing there?
You know what, I've not talked to Mrs. Prescott specifically about that. I think if there was a concern, she would have brought it to our attention. I do know that there's more opportunity for the synchronous learning because the classes are so much smaller. And so I think they are faring well there because of that smaller class size and because of the opportunity for synchronous learning. As Mr. Facer pointed out, I mean, and some of our students that struggle a little bit in school, our at-risk populations, our special ed populations probably have not performed as well. I know that is a huge concern for Mr. Minor. And we tried to address those individually as we can through an IEP, but certainly we're not able to address all the needs and for those learners who are not on IEPs.
Any more discussion? No discussion? Do I have an option? Do I have a motion for all these plans?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we stick with what we've been doing.
Which
Yeah,
option
you
is
have
that?
Option 1 or option 2?
So,
It isn't clear to me, which is,
One says March.
let's see,
1st,
option one
says
actually is March 1 for a return date. And then option 2 is the January date, or back up in the description, there's an opportunity for the board to maintain what we're doing and then to reconvene at a later date. Option one gives us a roadmap or a plan from March 1 to the end of the year. If things, if cases substantially increased, then the board could reconvene and come back and, and discuss moving forward into the balance of the school year. But option one would have learners returning March 1. So was that clear, or did I confuse you?
That was,
If what you're asking would be to remain where we are, and then instead of move to the modified traditional instructional model effective March 1, it would be reevaluate,
That's what I would prefer.
and that was not in there, but that's
that's not one of the.
So we would actually need to reevaluate beforehand because the
Before.
trimester would start then. And so we would be back here for another discussion toward the end of February, probably.
I just think we should take one or two. I think you should decide what you want to do.
Do you have a motion?
Yeah,
So we
okay.
would be back around February 15th if
To
the board.
reevaluate.
Well, I just get tired of coming back and going over it and going over it. I mean, I think that you've come up with these two plans.
I can tell you too that when in their tracking, and the reason we presented these as options but left the description option available certainly for the board as well, is that tracking of cases, our secondary number of learners that were out with COVID was approximately 20 at any given time if you were watching that data historically. Elementary, typically in single digits, our staff somewhere around 10 to 15. So, and that pattern or trend maintained itself consistently over up until Christmas, really. And then whether it's folks not testing or what have you, our numbers that we presented tonight were down just a little bit, but not to say that holidays they couldn't change. So that's what we know. And that's why we want to give the board all the information that we could for you to make a very, very difficult decision tonight.
Okay, I'll make I move that the board consider option 2 for adoption.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, so we can vote on it.
So let's explain what option 2 is then. So that means we'll stay,
So option 2 is the traditional instructional for elementary for the secondary to return on January 19th. That is option 2.
You got it?
No.
yeah,
You understand it? Okay.
So the only difference really is one is March 1st and one is January 19th.
19.
yeah.
That's the only difference between these two.
Yes.
No,
And
but
so I just moved for option 2.
And I got a second. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Paul.
Okay.
oh,
So do I have another option since that failed?
I would like to go back to the option 1. I guess I didn't state it clearly enough, but that we would reevaluate. That would have us going back to regular school in March, but we would reevaluate mid-February.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well,
Jim,
Pardon?
did you say aye?
Aye.
There's 4.
But I need to find the other votes.
No, I haven't asked yet, but that was 4. Any, on the negative side?
Aye.
Aye. So there's 4 to 1. Nay. Okay. That motion is passed. Finally, the last one is consider approving the Idaho Stage 2 Athletic Plan Assurance page. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the Idaho Stage 2 Athletic Plan Assurance page as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous, none opposed, and so that motion is passed. Right? Right. That concludes this meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.